Hello everybody, this is Glenn at the Horse Ranch, and by now you've probably either read the article in Horses All, or you've read it on our website, or maybe you've seen me draw the little diagram in the sand at a clinic or something. But the article about the pet partner couch potato athlete, all horses are bred for different things, and hopefully the horse that we're using for the particular job that we're doing was bred to do that job. So here in the mountains, these horses are bred to really basically just go slow and get you from point A to B. So they're bigger, big, strong, big bone, big footed horses, and that's their main job, is just get you from here to there. There's no big rush to get there. So they're not super athletes, but they're strong and they're hardy and they can live out there in the mountains. And so we looked around for a little footage that would show you somewhat what couch potato pet might look like. And so we found this little bit of footage on this big paint horse, and I remembered back from playing with him in the mountains here. He's still up there, still alive today and running around. We're still using him, but he was getting to where nobody would use him. He was bought from an auction. He's at least 16 hands tall and 1,400 pounds. Big, strong horse. Got a lot of draft in him, and he's good for the mountains, good for what they're doing up there. But guys were getting to where they wouldn't use him because on the ground, just leading him with a halter, or in the saddle when you're riding him, he'd just all of a sudden take a notion and nobody could stop me. He'd just take off through the trees. Not real fast, but just real methodical. He'd think about what he was going to do and get a thought, and decided that he wanted to go over and check out that mountain over there, and he'd just leave all the rest of the horses, and whoever's riding him wasn't big enough or strong enough to get him stopped or turned. And I'd watched him many times drag students across the field. He would just stick his nose into that halter when they're on the ground, even trying to do something, and he'd just leave, and they couldn't hold him. They'd be dragging on the ground behind him and jerk the rope out of their hands and just go off and do whatever he wanted to do. So they were getting to where they use him less and less all the time. And so once it gets to where they won't use him anymore and they can't ride him, they can't handle him on the ground, he ends up back at the auction, and he might end up in the wrong place next time. So we either got to get him figuring out that changing his habits and getting him to figure out to yield the pressure and go where we're asking him to go and get a little softer and lighter, or that's where he could end up in not the greatest of places. So during this clip here, I'm just asking him to get up off of that halter. When I ask him to come forward, and when you circle me, don't run out there and pull on that line. And if you do hit the end of the line and I pick up on it, you should get real soft and light and come towards me. So I ask him forward with the lead line. If he doesn't go, I tap on the hind quarter. So it's like giving him a little nip in the bud if he don't get going. Doesn't move forward. And as long as he's pulling on me and pulling on that line, I keep driving him forward, taking my stick and string when he gets out there ways, and I flick him in the butt, give him a little nip in the butt, and ask him to jump forward, get off of that line, and as soon as he does, all gets quiet. So I change the way he does things, change what he's learned before, is just pull until he pulls the rope out of people's hands and takes off. So what I'm trying to do is say, no, you come ahead and get light and it'll get quiet. He was getting released before by dragging people around, running off, jerking the rope out of their hand. And so my job is to ask a little bit with the lead line and make everything else difficult. Make coming towards me the thing that we're looking for, and when he does it, it gets all quiet, gets a rub, and we go on. So we change his habits. So the goal would be to change him from being a pet that nobody wants to be around and nobody can handle to a partner that everybody wants to be around. With this older mare here, she's 7 years old, never been started, never been broke to ride or anything, so we're just getting her going. And her reason for being non-responsive and a little dull and acting kind of like a couch potato is because she uses it as self-preservation. She doesn't realize what it is she's supposed to do. And so in her mind, the best thing to do and what's worked good for her in the last 7 years living out here in the mountains with the bears and the wolves and with the rest of the herd is to push on that pressure and use that as her self-preservation. So there can be different reasons that horses get dull or non-responsive or act like a couch potato. Some, they've been taught that way. They don't know, or they've never been taught to be responsive. That's just how they've been rode and handled. And in her case, she's never been handled, so she's just doing this out of a self-preservation. So now we've took off and we're over in Brazil, and these are all Lusitano stallions. And so they're a completely different style of horse, bred for completely different things. They're heritage goes back to the war days when they used to use these horses for war, and in between wars when they weren't warring, they had to keep the horses in shape and get them ready for the next war, and they'd fight bulls with them. And then the wars kind of went away, and then they used them for bullfighting competitions. So they're very lively, very athletic horses. In contrast to the paint horse, this white horse and this black horse Shaky that I'm playing with through the barrels here is, if you notice, the rope has a big belly in the rope, or what we call float in the rope, and they're doing their very best to stay off of that rope, and you can redirect them and move their feet, and there's never any pulling on that rope. So it's not just the breeding, it's the way the horse has been taught to be handled. Well, all of these Lusitano horses, they're ready to move their feet. There's no problem moving their feet, but sometimes they'll be non-responsive and then suddenly reactive. So the horse here that I'm using, teaching him to follow a feel on that halter a little bit, he's kind of non-responsive, he doesn't do nothing, and then all of a sudden there's a big reaction. So we need to get him to where he's responsive again, which is what a partner would be. And they're athletic, there's no question about that. It'd be tough making these horses into couch potato, but I suppose it could be done. But you'll see as we work through the issues with this horse, he turns from being, and my goal is to get him from being non-responsive, where he stands there and holds, he just lays on the halter and does nothing, to all of a sudden a big reaction. I need him to play with him long enough to get him responsive, so he understands what he's supposed to do, and he just follows the feel a little better. And this video clip we got here, we got one of my good friends down there in Brazil with us, and so we give her a horse, and this horse actually was sent to the ranch down here for them to do some training on and fix up some little issues. Well, there's one of his little issues, and really what he's saying right here is that if you watched his eye and watched the horse before he started jumping and leaping around, he's real quiet looking, he's kind of sleepy, half asleep, nothing's going on, and you can tell this is just trained right into this guy. He goes, oh, I think I'm going to have a fit here and act crazy. As soon as she drops that stick, he's still got to do a couple more jumps and leaps through the air, and then he just goes right back to sleep. It's almost like he was wanting to see, can he get away with this business? So that would fall, he's being disrespectful. I wouldn't say that he was necessarily scared. He sure didn't look scared. He acted, there's a big reaction, but it was more like he was looking for an excuse to have a reaction. Then he had his reaction. He wanted to see, when he has his reaction, how's it going to work out? And she did a real good job of getting him bent around and slowed up, and made it difficult for him to carry on with his reactions. But being an athlete, his reaction would be completely different than the reaction of that paint horse. Paint horse, he's slow and sleepy moving, and that guy, he's got some life in his feet. All these Lusitanos, they get up and get going, so their reaction rarely would be slow and sleepy. Here in the round pen, we've got another Lusitano stallion. This was actually one of my favorite horses over there in Brazil. Every time I went there, I'd try to get as much time playing with this guy as I could. Shaky's his name, and so here I'm teaching him some liberty, and he'd had a few sessions with me here, and I was just kind of showing what he was learning, and he's acting like a real partner. Now again, super athletic horse, pretty easy to be reactive. This guy, he can get pretty reactive. So, but in this video clip here, he's doing his very best to be a partner. He's wrapped around me when he's circling. When I ask for the different parts of his body to move and his feet to move, he's just listening right in and moving exactly the feet where I want him, to the best of his knowledge. For the most part here, he's doing his very best to be a partner. He's an athlete. He's born athlete, and he's doing his very best to be responsive. So there's a fun look at some different styles and types of horses out there and what their tendencies might be.